Hello, this is Marjorie Fryman, Chair, Board of Selectmen, Precinct C. This is the Town of Wellesley Townwide Financial Plan under Article 2. I move that this town meeting hereby acknowledge presentation of the Townwide Financial Plan and the 5-year capital budget program pursuant to Section 19.16.2 and 19.5.2 respectively of the town bylaws. I would like now to introduce Executive Director Megan Jopp and Finance Director Cheryl Strother to take us through Article 2.
Hello, I'm Megan Jopp, the town's Executive Director, and myself and Finance Director Cheryl Strother will be giving you an overview of the Townwide Financial Plan. The Townwide Plan is a year-round process. It's shaped by strategic plans, community needs and values, budget and capital, and incorporates both decisions made over time and emerging issues. The underlying foundation of the town's ability to deliver the highest quality and most innovative services is its finances and long history of conservative financial management. This conservative approach has been reaffirmed over the years through the adoption of written policies, long-term efforts to address past service liabilities, and a comprehensive risk management approach while maintaining capital assets. The Townwide Financial Plan cycle starts and ends with town meeting. Following town meeting, the department heads debrief, and financial services trues up the actuals and reviews our planning assumptions. Through the summer, we begin to confirm or adjust budget guidelines. Departments prepare their operating budgets and 5-year plans, and then we update the Townwide Financial Plan using the operating budgets and new 5-year capital plans. Advisory reviews, and then the Board of Selectmen adopt a Townwide Financial Plan. This year, the Townwide Financial Plan was adopted on March 11th. Then, a state of emergency was declared for COVID-19. With the governor's declaration of a state of emergency, including a stay-at-home advisory, the Townwide Financial Plan cycle jumped off course in March. With that, town meeting and the town election were delayed. Town operations were considerably modified, and many of our departments went remote while continuing to provide municipal and educational services. During this time, the Finance Department began reviewing our assumptions, and we made considerable modifications to our revenue. As part of that, to offset and maintain operations, capital budgets were modified across the board by 25%. We're at June now, and we're trying to have our operational budgets approved and get back on to the Townwide Financial Plan cycle. As part of that, we'll begin the true up in terms of actuals and review of planning assumptions. And this year, while we're doing that, simultaneously, we'll also be evaluating the 22 guidelines. So, come October, what should be expected is potentially additional budget modifications, if needed, to the fiscal year 21 budget, while we can also provide an update on what the guidelines are for FY22. With that, we would begin our regular course of preparing departments' operational budgets and 5-year capital plans. The premise of the Townwide Financial Plan is really built on 5 pillars. The pillars were created by Hans Larson and Cheryl Strother about 12 years ago. As part of that, it's to look at, as part of the 5 Ps, to pay the full cost of current operations and services. This includes continuing the commitment to pay for liabilities that have already been incurred. Examples of that include pension and other post-employment benefit obligations, primarily retiree health insurance, also known as OPEB. You will hear more about that in this presentation. We also look at any ancillary costs of current budget decisions. What will be the long-term impacts of those? Proactively addressing emerging issues. This certainly changes every year. from the acquisition of land with the North 40 to development impacts from the 40Bs to COVID-19. Each year, that tends to be another issue that impacts our townwide financial plan and the 5 pillars for which guides the decisions. Protect the town against material risks. This really is looking at our insurance. It's looking at how we are guarding the town against potentially negative impacts. That includes looking at our financial reserves, looking at our IT recovery plan to ensure against cyber attacks, looking at public safety or workplace safety training to make sure we're keeping our staff healthy and doing all the right things to meet OSHA or other state and federal standards. We also look at preserving the town's assets. You will hear a lot about our building maintenance program, as well as our long-term look at updating and constructing additional facilities. But it also includes our natural resources and maintaining our green space, our quality of education, our senior services. And it also looks at maintaining our staff, which is really the town's #1 asset. The townwide financial plan focus is the long view. We're looking to take the long view. And we're always looking at what is the long-term cost of today's decisions, because eventually all costs are financial. The townwide financial plan, all of the items that will come before you have evaluated decisions based upon these 5 Ps. Key financial planning issues in 2021 and beyond. COVID-19 impacts on the economy are on the forefront of our decisions in the townwide financial plan. In addition to that, we will get into the personnel, both in terms of growth and equitable salary costs. We'll round out with some employee benefit cost information, and then follow up with facilities and capital needs. This year, based upon COVID-19, we've had to make considerable revenue assumptions. We've modified our new growth, our state aid, and our local receipts. The new growth has a 28% reduction, largely due to a decrease in construction. State aid has been held flat, resulting in a $200,000 reduction. Local receipts have the most considerable cut, and we receive those from our building permits, our motor vehicle excise, and investment income. We've reduced this down by $1,646,005 for a total reduction in modified revenue assumptions of $2,346,005. In addition to the modified revenue expenses, we've also modified some expenses. We've modified our health insurance assumptions by $200,000. This is largely due to a hiring freeze that the Board of Selectmen implemented in April. In addition, we made considerable cash capital reductions of over 25% across the board, resulting in a little over $1.3 million. We also made a financial decision to remove the Sprague chiller from cash capital into borrowing. We've split that up into 2 projects, where this year's cash capital, FY21, will include $105,000 for the planning, and then at the special town meeting in October, we will seek a borrowing of $795,000 for the actual construction and implementation of the chiller. The Board of Selectmen had considerable discussion about the Town Hall Annex and determined that we have delayed that project. This has been a reduction of $1.3 million from free cash, which was anticipated for the schematic design at request at the annual town meeting. In addition to that, the Lee and Honeywell Field had a component of borrowing. We went back to the Community Preservation Committee to assist us and ask for additional $200,000 in the recreational and open space component to eliminate borrowing. That resulted in an increase of $200,000 from CPC and offset our borrowing. This slide reflects the growth in full-time employees from 2015 to 2021. Overall increase has been 12 employees at the town level and 76 employees at the school level. The change from last year results in 0 new employees at the town and 3 new employees at the school. What this table is reflective of is either state-mandated positions, programmatic positions, and operational decisions. Many of the positions are identified in strategic plans and have been implemented over time. 20 and 21 reflect a significant hold on new employees as we evaluate COVID-19. The growth in the personnel costs from the same period have increased. This year, the compound annual growth rate is also reflective of an increase in union contract settlements and an increase of 2.5% salary adjustment for 40, 50, and 60 series. We've also shown an increase through our group insurance, although with the town's memorandum of understanding with the unions, the town's insurance growth has decreased as compared to other communities. Union settlement update. The town has 8 municipal unions under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen. Within those 8 unions, the town has come to an agreement with 3 to date: the superior officers, the patrolmen, and the firefighters. Based upon the townwide financial plan's guiding principles, the 5 Ps, when we underwent union settlement discussions, the town looked at proactively addressing emerging issues and preserving the town's assets, which are primarily our staff. An emerging issue was showing that our public safety officials were trending below, significantly below, the median compensation for the region. As such, as part of the personnel equitable salary costs financial planning, the Board of Selectmen made considerable strides in trying to bring the public safety offices up to the median. What you will see in terms of the townwide financial plan numbers and the motions are not 100% aligned. What that's reflective of is some push and pulls in the police and fire department budgets relative to additional expenses associated with modifications in shifts, for night shift differential, for holiday pay, for various stipends. So some of that incrementally can be absorbed within the broader budget, and the tax impact aligned under Article 5 is slightly different than what's reflective in the sources and uses in the townwide financial plan. The school department also has 3 unions. Those contracts have been settled through FY22. Our hope is that the remaining contracts would be brought forward to the special town meeting in October for ratification.
This is Finance Director Cheryl Struther, and I will be covering employee benefit costs, which include pension, OPEB, health insurance, and other benefit costs. The town's pension plan is a defined benefit plan for full-time employees, and that includes employees working over 1,000 hours per year, and it also includes some school employees. Teachers actually have a separate plan, and that's with the Commonwealth. Town employees are not eligible for Social Security, and they contribute up to 9% of their salary and an additional 2% on all of their earnings over $30,000, which is much more than they would contribute if they were covered under Social Security. Pension reforms in 2012 actually reduced the benefits from the pension plan and raised the age and years of service requirements. There are also limits on the cost of living and on the COLA base. Cost of living increases are typically between 0 and 3%. The COLA base now is as high as $18,000. So if you were receiving a pension of $30,000, you would only get a cost of living increase on the first $18,000. In Wellesley, the OPEB liability represents promised health insurance coverage for all pension-eligible employees, including teachers, anyone with over 10 years of service. When we say that the town will pay the full cost of current operations within our 5 Ps, We also include existing liabilities resulting from an employee's prior tenure. Both the pension and OPEB include costs associated with prior years of service, in addition to the cost of the current year. In the past, municipalities ignore the appropriation to fund those prior period costs until laws were passed setting specific requirements for appropriating them. These costs are so critical to analyzing an entity's fiscal health that these liabilities must now be presented on the face of a government's financial statements. The pension fund is managed by the Wellesley Contributory Retirement Board. The board is independent, not part of the town. The selectmen appoint one member, who happens to be our elected chairman of 25 plus years, David Cornwitz. Other members include 2 elected members, an ex officio member, and a member elected by the other members. The ex officio member is by definition the finance director, town accountant for the town. The board directs the investment of pension funds and works with an actuary on actuarial assumptions for a funding schedule. The independence of the retirement board is underscored by the term in the law that says the town shall appropriate the funding for the pension fund. OPEB funds are under the control of the town treasurer, but the town has elected to have the retirement board manage the investments. Health insurance offerings significantly impact the liability. According to actuarial calculations, the town's pension fund will be fully funded in the year 2030, and the OPEB fund will be fully funded in the year 2032. The pension plan is 75.6% funded, and the OPEB is 54.9% funded. The town uses a conservative assumed rate of return of 6.625%, which rounds to 6.63%, and this is significantly more conservative than other communities in the Commonwealth, and the town is better funded than most towns in the Commonwealth. Employee health insurance is a mandatory subject of collective bargaining. This includes plan design, the amount of copays and deductibles, and the town's contribution. The town procures health insurance through a consortium called the West Suburban Health Group. The town negotiates these arrangements periodically, and in the last collective bargaining round opted not to use a newer adversarial provision of a new section 21 to 23 of Chapter 32B, but instead agreed to go work with all of its employee bargaining groups to separately negotiate a 3-year agreement covering just the benefits. The town is in its last year, fiscal 2021, of the 3-year agreement that negotiated major changes to the health and associated benefit programs. Negotiations for a successor agreement would begin in the fall of 2020. Because health insurance represents such a significant cost to the town has worked for many years to control health insurance costs. Dating back to 2006, the town offered a Section 18 election, and as recently as 2018, there's a new agreement for the time frame from 2019 to 2021 that introduced deductible plans. The town will need to negotiate a new agreement with its unions during 2020, effective July 1, 2021. This slide represents a conservative estimate of 2021 enrollment. This shows the varying town contributions to the various plans. Note that the town pays less for the high deductible plans. The town is in the last year of a 3-year health insurance agreement with its unions. Some of the newer offerings in this agreement include varying town contribution rates for the different plans, high deductible plans with associated incentives, health savings accounts, HSAs, and even incentives to opt out of the town's plans entirely. The current agreement yielded budget savings of $1 million in both 2019 and 2020, and we look forward to negotiating an affordable successor agreement. It's important to note that health insurance costs escalate not only because of rates and plan offerings, but also by the number of covered employees. The town is always mindful of adding positions as a result.
Thank you, Cheryl, for that overview. And last but not least is facilities and capital planning. I will go through the projected debt, the major project financing schedule, and how we anticipate reducing projected deficits in the out years. Projects funded with cash capital or funded by debt service or other means continue to comprise a large portion of the town's budget. The need grows exponentially year over year for capital projects. As such, the Board of Selectmen adopted a policy outlining a range to limit expenditures. The range is between 6.2% and 6.8% of budgeted revenues. This range allows for the board to try and restrict funds needed towards capital in order to maintain departmental operating budgets. In addition to the ongoing projects funded with cash capital and debt service, as detailed in the 5-year capital plan, which can be found in the budget book, Town meeting will be asked to consider a number of large capital projects for debt exclusion votes in the next several years. Beginning in October of 2020, requests will be made for the middle school systems, and then following at the annual town meeting in 21, the construction funds for the Honeywell School and the MSBA supported elementary school, which will either be at the Hardy Elementary location or the Upham Elementary location. And further out in FY24, the Town Hall interior improvements. Before you is the projected debt and cash capital mountain, our debt mountain, as we like to call it. This slide shows where cash capital inside the levy debt meets each other. So the blue is the planned excluded debt in the next coming years. The yellow indicates the debt that's been excluded and has already been issued. We also have inside the levy debt issued, highlighted in the orange-red color, and inside requested for upcoming projects. The cash capital requested, we've tried to smooth that curve, as you can see, through 2027. Last year, the town introduced a new one-page schedule that identifies the collective current thinking of the various groups: School Building Committee, Permanent Building Committee, Facilities Management Department, and the Board of Selectmen, among others, on the timing of debt exclusion projects. This high-level look will continue to be updated and circulated as plans evolve. What this identifies is years DE indicates those years of a debt exclusion. Inside highlights the town meeting decisions that would be inside the levy borrowing. Through fiscal year 21, we are anticipating $18.4 million of both debt excluded construction for the middle school building systems and inside the levy borrowing for library renovations and roof repairs. Those projects will be brought forward to the October 2020 annual special town meeting. In addition, at the annual town meeting in 2021, we would be looking to fund the construction for both the early Honeywell and MSBA project located at Hardy or Upham. The Town Hall interior project would be seeking funds for the design inside the levy. As you can see, through fiscal year 23 to 25, we highlight the various projects. This chart will grow year over year, showing where a project is within the scope of funding. The FY21 capital projects are very short this year. In general, we typically have a number of authorizations for larger capital projects. Due to COVID-19, the town has downsized the projects by elimination of the Town Hall Annex. What's before town meeting is an appropriation for the reconstruction of Great Plain Avenue at $2.75 million. That is the only capital project moving forward outside of the cash capital plan. In addition, we would have at the special town meeting in 2020 a number of projects that were identified on our major capital program, including the middle school building systems, library interior renovation, library roof, and a new article for the Sprague chiller. The Sprague chiller previously was a $900,000 project that was on the cash capital list under the Facilities Management Department. Due to COVID-19, we've made the determination to break that project into two. So the cash capital for FY21 includes the $105,000 to do the design. We would then go to the special town meeting for FY21 in October to have a borrowing for the remaining component of the project at $795,000. This would fund the purchase and installation of the chiller. This is a summary of sources and uses for the townwide financial plan. This shows both the year-over-year impacts of FY20 to FY21, in addition to looking at the projections for out years, FY22 through FY24. The FY21 line shows the modified COVID-19 revenue assumptions, in addition to the reduction in cash capital of upwards of 34%. With those reductions, the schedule still shows with moderate revenue growth, if we assume 2% revenue growth through 22, 23, and 24, and growth in all operating budgets of 3% for schools and 2.5% for all other departments, that the town incurs growing deficits. Cash capital inside the levy debt represent the current request from all departments in the FY21 through 24 5-year capital plan, and these exceed the board's policy. If capital and debt service can be prioritized to fit within the affordable limits and operating budgets remain moderate, overrides likely can be avoided. However, we still have growing concerns about the uncertainty of both state aid and what the reductions potentially may be, in addition to looking at the ongoing costs of the impact of COVID-19 on our various departments. This plan shows that reducing our projected deficits to meet the capital and debt policy of 6.2 to 6.8% of revenues significantly reduces the deficits down to $2.4 million in 2022, down to $1.4 million in 24. These deficits, we're hopeful that with additional revenue projections, hopefully from the ongoing projects coming forward and new growth, that we'll be able to make up this difference. We will have to closely, over the next 2 to 3 years, monitor departmental strategic plans, unified plan initiatives, and ongoing costs for COVID-19 till we assume our new normal. We're hopeful that working together, we can reduce these deficits and not require an override, particularly given the number of debt exclusions that the town will be seeking to pass in FY21 and beyond. This final chart models the potential tax impact of upcoming capital projects. The chart is simply a model and subject to change as projects are approved and as cash flows become known. The median home value that this tax bill is based upon is $1,158,000. With that, this concludes the townwide financial plan. We thank you for your continued patience as we continue to modify our assumptions based upon the COVID-19 impact. We also encourage you to take a look at the town's budget book and to review all of the various presentations that have been prepared for this remote annual town meeting. This is a first for us, just as it is for you, and we appreciate your patience. I'd like to thank the Board of Selectmen and Finance Director Cheryl Strother in assistance with preparing this townwide financial plan. I'd also like to thank the Advisory Committee for all their assistance and guidance as we've moved through this new era. Thank you.